Brisbane Broncos and St George. And as can you imagine, the ground is quite a quagmire here, and I don't think we'll be seeing anything terribly flash out there today, David Wright.
No, Bill, the conditions an absolute disgrace, as you can see there on your screens, and you won't see those white jerseys for very long. St George have had enormous rain. Well, the whole of Sydney have had it really in the last few days, and it has absolutely been bucketing down here in the last couple of hours. And unfortunately, for all concerned, St George were expecting a bumper crowd here today. Well, it's only their real true blue supporters that have come out. There's Billy Noak, who was of course, the Broncos. He's laying down the law to his teammates.
Having a look at the St George side today, there's one change to report following the injury of former Queenslander Clinton Moore. Former Brothers player Mark Coyne moves to the wing, and the experienced Michael Beattie returns to the top grade in the centres. Ryan Johnston also makes his return from an injured cheekbone, and up in the forwards we'll be looking to former Bronco Billy Noak, who's back with the Dragons, and he's out to prove a point or two.
Well, not surprisingly, the heavy workload of the Winfield and Panasonic Cups, along with the State of Origin commitments by several of the Broncos stars over the past 2 weeks, has finally taken its toll. Looking at the side, out of their lineup goes Tony Curry, Joe Kilroy and Chris Johns, who between them this year have scored 16 Broncos tries. In a reshuffle, young Steve Renouf gets his second chance at the top grade after his debut against Western Suburbs, and utility player Gary French finds himself in the unusual surroundings in the centres with Peter Jackson. The Broncos' platform of success in '89, their committed pack of 6 forwards remains intact, with Terry Madison passing his fitness test midweek. An interesting statistic, the Broncos' defensive line has not been crossed in their last 160 minutes, David, in the Winfield Cup, and that's a very impressive effort.
Certainly is. They'll be called on to do some heavy defence in the middle of the park today. Undoubtedly, territorial advantage will be of a primary concern to both sides. Kicking so important, and of course, psychologically, the Broncos thinking about next week's Panasonic Cup. They'll need to have their minds on the conditions today to ensure they play at their maximum.
So from the kick-off, it's going to be taken by Big Gene Miles. Miles straight ahead, and he's going to be put down into the Cogra mud. Coming across underneath him to put him over will be Mark Coyne. Going to be lost this time. St George end up with it, and coming away there is a half-back Linane, and he'll get up to play it, quickly spreading it across field, coming up quite strongly over there.
Inside the 5 metres, the Brisbane side, there'll be a tendency to run onto the ball as quickly as you possibly can to try and move up on the defence, as the roof of the commentary box is just opened up, and I've been flooded. But really, the conditions will be such that you'll need to move up very quickly on your opposition. Brisbane tried to do it there. Ricky Walford is going to be the kicker, and he's a very accomplished kicker. He's around about 5 metres to the right-hand side of the post, about 25 metres out from the goal posts, and under normal conditions a gift, but under these conditions, as you can see there, swamp-like conditions here at Cogra Oval, the real hardy supporters have come out today. You'd have to be keen to support your football team. Actually, looking around the ground, it is a very good crowd when you think of it, and they've done extremely well.
All right, just while he's lining up for that kick at goal, Tony Durkin down on the touchline. I notice Terry Madison off the field at the moment.
Thanks. As you can see, Madison has just discovered that it's very, very boggy out there, and in fact there's a chance they could lose their boots.
Alrighty, so there's Walford putting on the first points on the board. Over it goes, a goal for St George, and they open up a lead here in the early minutes of the match by 2 points to 0. Tony, just talking about this match, you've got a bit of an interesting story down there right now with John Rebo.
Thanks, Bill. Well, as you can see, Cogra Oval looks like a pigsty, and I can assure you it smells like one too. But with a little bit of luck, this match could have been played at Lang Park. And John Rebo with me, the Chief Executive of the Brisbane Broncos. And John, there was a real chance that may happen.
Yes, Tony. Yesterday morning when we found out how wet it was, we extended an invitation to St George to see if they wanted to play the game at Lang Park. And, certainly would have made it financially worth their while, but they elected to play on Cogra, and hopefully they think they can get away with the 2 points, and we'll see in 80 minutes' time.
Well, John, that was very honourable of the Broncos to make that offer, but what was in it for St George?
Well, the gate was the main thing, where, I think their biggest gate's been 50,000 up to date, and to play at Lang Park, they would have got, I'd say, in excess of 75,000. So financially, they would have been better off, and they could have shown their wares on the dry track.
Running it up towards the halfway mark, Duffy put to the ground. Tackler coming around to get a hold of him on that occasion was Michael Beattie. Beattie making his way back into the top grade today. Very experienced player. Up his dummy half is Walters. There's a penalty coming up to the Broncos.
Well, holding down in the tackle there. Referee for today, Mr. West, is going to clamp down pretty quickly under these conditions. Both sides will be pretty intent on slowing the others down, although the conditions will do that even without a great deal of effort. But I would think we're going to see a few penalties in today's game. It's one of those sort of games where infringements are going to happen, even if you're not intent on doing so. And here now, first chance for Brisbane to go on the attack.
By the way, too, in the early match today, reserve grade St George ran out winners by 16 points to 4. 16 to 4, and St George getting the win there and also getting possession on this occasion. Taking it up is Fullerton Smith. He's going to be tackled by Walters. Very heavy conditions out there in centre field.
Just a point, Billy. Apparently, Craig Young was the man who ultimately decided that St George should play here today. He was the one who said, after all the officials more or less said, well, maybe it's not such a bad idea to go to Lang Park. Well, you can bet your life Craig Young wasn't captain coach. If he had been, it could have been a different story.
I think you might be right there, David. No worries about that one. So from the play the ball now, it was Longhurst in there as dummy half. The kick downfield. Duffy going back for it. Duffy takes it. Straight ahead, going to be wrapped up in the tackle. Tackle coming around to get him is Brian Johnston. Granoof as dummy half. He takes it up. St George with a lead of 2 points to 0 at the moment. So from the play the ball, it's Walters working across field. Going to be wrapped up though. In over the top of the tackle there was Shane Kelly. Alan Langer dummy half this time. Broncos content to just run it out. As I said at the start, David, I don't think we'll see too much fancy stuff out there today.
No, you will not, Bill. It'll be very tight and close to the ruck. And St George at this stage, having the territorial advantage, they played the game exactly where they want to. Here's a chance now for Lewis to get it down the other end.
Lewis drives it deep downfield, but going back there to pick it up will be Mark Coyne. Coyne's going to be grabbed by Langer, though. The good chasing game again. Jackson in over the top. So away from dummy half, it'll be South, the fullback. Takes it up centre field, where it is particularly heavy. Some of those corners are quite okay, but very, very heavy up the centre. That's Kelly. Tackler again was Jackson. Dummy half is Longhurst. Longhurst sending it across, trying to find a way up the centre. There was Osborne. He unloads it. They keep it going. But coming in over the top of the tackle is Gene Miles. Away from the play the ball now. The kick coming through. Oh, it's going to be picked up by Hancock, who juggled it a bit. But plenty of St George defence getting up very solidly, very smartly. Led off there by Peter Gill. See that water and mud flying everywhere. Tony Durgan, what's it like down your end of things?
Really, Billy, it's absolutely disgraceful. The conditions are archaic. It is absolutely stinking down here. And of course, the big problem that the Broncos spoke of were the line markings here, and it's almost impossible to decipher the line markings, in particular the sideline closest to the grandstand.
Right, so there's Walters coming up as dummy half now. He decides to go himself. Now gets it back to Lewis. Lewis up the centre. Went well and truly up there by Osborne and also Mackay. From the play the ball to Miles, shaped a kick. Then decided to keep going. Finally got it away. He had to get away from Brad Mackay first up. Back over there for South. South will run it forward. Only gains a couple of metres. Put over in the tackle of Gary French. So from the play the ball, working across field. Over there is Coyne. Waiting up as dummy half this time is Longhurst. He'll send it over into the centre. Kelly taking it up. Longhurst again as dummy half. The crowd calling to get him back on side, but at this stage, referee Graham West taking no notice. Being towed through by Lanane, dived on by Dowling back there. St George's lead at this stage is 2 points to 0. Hancock is the dummy half.
Billy, one of the interesting things will be whether the Broncos continue to try and use 6 tackles before they kick it downfield. On each occasion, they've tried to use up the tackles. They won't have to bother here just this time. Once again, St George conceding their second penalty for holding down. You couldn't hold down too long in these conditions. You'd drown somebody. There it is, trying to get up to play the ball. Michael Hancock, he was pulled down into the sludge and slush. Peter Gill, one of the tacklers, Lanane in to make sure he goes down. And then momentarily holding on too long. Broncos have found touch right on halfway.
Gerard Boulders coming up onto the mark to take the tap from there. He gets it away to Dowling. Dowling straight ahead. We know Greg Dowling likes the wet. I don't know whether he likes it this wet though, David.
No, no one will like it out there today, but the job has to be done. Professional footballers, and they'll just have to get in there and do their job. First point so important in a game like today. St George have got the 2 points up already, but Brisbane really yet to get into a position to put a bit of pressure on St George. And while playing in those sort of midfield conditions in that sludge, an absolute pigsty, none better. they'll have to work very hard, and the idea is to get it out into the extremities of the field and at least try and take advantage of some of the green pastures.
Kick through taken back there by South, immediately going to be tackled by first up Alan Langer, and then French finished it off. This is Walford. Walford straight ahead, going to be tackled by Miles, and also Wally Lewis up there. Back down on the touchline once again, here's Tony Durkin.
Came over the sideline, Bill, and Michael Beattie has split the webbing in the finger on his right hand. He's a very, very sick man, I can tell you. A lot of blood coming away, and I'm not sure what they're going to do. They'll probably just strap it. Obviously, they won't have a chance to stitch it. So Michael Beattie in a bit of trouble for St George.
He'd need webbed feet out there today, not webbing on his fingers.
Yeah, you betcha. Final tackle coming up. So we'll see the kick through. Downfield by Lenane. Back there is Duffy. Drops it back behind him. Regathers. Starts to move. Straight ahead. Going to be put over in the tackle coming up from Beattie. As the rain continues to tumble down here. Renouf well wrapped up. From the play the ball now, this is Langer. Sending away to Madison, outside to Jackson. Jackson straight ahead, going to be put to the ground on the tackle of Peter Gill. But he's lost the ball.
Well, this will be the tactics both sides will be endeavouring to exploit. The touch judge on to make a report. Must have been fairly close to him because he certainly couldn't have seen too much from a distance. Gene Miles, the one being called out. Jackson there, knocking the ball on, hit heavily in the tackle. Gene Miles being lectured on a touch judge's report. But both sides will be looking to play in the opposition territory, goes without saying, and then for mistakes to come up. Well, the Broncos have made an error inside their own territory. It will be a scrum to pack, loose head and feed to the Dragons.
And lining up with the scrum to feed it will be Lenane. And at this stage, we're almost 10 minutes into the first half of the match, and David, a lead here for St George of 2 points to nil.
Yeah, and a very vital one too, Bill, and they're on the bus. This could be another chance. Streaking away, and that's the try to Johnston. That's the try they wanted so early in this game. That's why the fans have braved the conditions. They have sensed an upset against the competition leaders, and it's 6 points to nil.
Yes, as we said a little while ago, looking for mistakes from the opposition inside their own territory. Scrum was packed quickly away, and of course with that 5 metres at the base, quick hands, Peter Gill rushes out, held up the pass beautifully, and on came Johnston, the captain Ryan Johnston, hit the pass. Peter Gill it was, who stood in a heavy Lewis tackle. Good work from Gill, beautiful hands, stood up nicely. The ex-Brothers player gave the pass up to Johnston on the burst. No one at home for Brisbane, and this is a very important start for St George. They got the early points they were looking for, and most importantly, they got the try.
All right, have a look at it here. As you can see, there's the break coming up, and away they go. And it was pretty much shut the gate material after that. And over for the opening try, and as you said, Dave, a very, very important one there for St George.
Is it ever? Gary French, of course, playing in the centres, foreign to him somewhat, and he was caught a little bit on the outside and allowed Johnson to straighten the attack, and French couldn't change direction as he stood in his inside centre position, unable to affect the tackle.
Ricky Walford, the third leading point scorer in the Premiership, raises the flags. And have we got an upset on our hands here today at Cogra Oval? More action to come on the other side of this commercial break. Back here at the quagmire of the Cogra Oval, the chance of the Saints go marching in, the very proud club that has appeared on grand final day on no fewer than 25 occasions since coming to the league in 1921, have opened up a very, very handy lead. But Tony Durkin, a report on Ryan Johnston's centre partner Michael Beattie.
And Michael Beattie, who wasn't needed in that try-scoring movement for St George, has left the field of play. He's being, at the moment, his hand is being stitched by Dr. Bill Monaghan in the St George dressing rooms. He'll be back shortly.
Okay, well, that's the situation at St George, leading by 8 points to nil. Another break. A big run upfield by Darren South. He's got the pass away to Johnston. Out for Walford. Walford around Renouf, and Walford goes in for another try.
Brilliant passing movement by the St George Dragons. It was South who made that initial break. Ricky Walford's finished it off. Brisbane not intent to put the man on the ground. They don't want to play football here today. St George have decided they've got to do their job. It was through their own insistence they wanted to play here today. On the Medway replay, big charging run by Osborne. He rucks it solidly into midfield. Brisbane not committed to the tackles. Longhurst there at dummy half. Fires the ball out. Gill again, a beautiful baller. South straight into the gap. Away they go. Quick hands then out. Out to Brian Johnston again. Ricky Walford, too much pace. He gets away from Renouf and goes across there nicely. Good work there from St George Dragons. There's Walford just finishing it off. Brisbane have not got their mind on the job at the moment. It will take a very big effort to make a comeback from here.
Having a look at it from the head on, and there's the gap, and away they go. And you can see there that South was calling for it back infield after that when it went to Walford. But no worries about it. Duffy coming across a little bit too late and draws the defence. You can see Renouf is in there. He set sail, but Walford had too much start. And Ricky Walford over for another good try for St George.
His 5th try for the season. He scored 15 last year with a total of 164 points, but he's really done some damage out there today. And we mentioned before the game started that this Broncos side had gone 2 matches without conceding a try. They've now conceded 2 in 2 minutes, and 2 body blows they've been. Ricky Walford with a difficult kick in these conditions from near touch. He struck it beautifully. Oh, bonus points. 14 points to 0. St George over the Brisbane Broncos.
Second try in only 2 minutes. St George very keen. Wally Lewis had his whole side right around him when that try was scored, or just after the try was scored. Interesting, Brisbane are not playing with a sweeper. Alan Langer, who's fulfilled that role in recent weeks, has been caught up in the line. St George making the breaks. They'll need to rearrange their defensive pattern.
Well, talking about the defensive pattern, one player that they are missing out there already in the opening 15 minutes of this match has been Tony Curry. His defensive work, the way he's read the play on that back line, and he, along with Chris Johnson, Joe Kilroy, are out of this Brisbane side, which has totally disrupted that back line, and that's where they've been broken out wide.
Yes, they are, and good work from Peter Gill on each occasion. He's been the man who's put the pass up beautifully. He was out injured earlier in the season, Peter Gill. He's come back in the last few weeks and playing some top-class football.
Well, a 14 points to 0 lead under these conditions could well be a match-winning lead already in this match. There's the kick downfield, and that's forced Hancock and also Duffy to go back, and the rain is just absolutely teeming down. And Tony Durkin, it's I never envy your position down on the touchline. We're getting a taste of it up here in this arcade commentary box as well.
Well, I thought Bathurst was bad the other night when I think it got down to -1, but this is absolutely atrocious down here. But being an old St George supporter, I suppose it's not too bad, but certainly St George playing magnificent wet weather football at the moment, and considering the conditions, not a bad crowd either.
Well, the St George side had 4 straight losses to Souths, Canberra, Wests and Norths, and included in that were 2 big hidings, 32-0 and 42-4 at the hands of Souths and Canberra. Then they came back and defeated the Gold Coast 8-4 in Balmain last week, 24-14 to be on 10 points on the table. And starting to make a climb back towards semi-final contention, but haven't they upset the Broncos here in the opening 16 or 17 minutes of this match?
Certainly have. The Broncos will have to work hard to get back into this. They won't want St George to score any more points. It's absolutely vital for the Broncos' chances for them to get points on early in the first. Well, from this point on now, they must ensure that St George don't score any more in this first half. At the same time, Brisbane put points on.
Walters
don't
now.
write the Broncos off yet.
It's for the wraparound with Walters. The ball's been knocked down. It's picked up by Longhurst. The referee's by Walters, 6 more to go. It's Duffy, and Duffy takes it to the quarter line. So can the Broncos make something out of this? They camp just outside the 22. Langer, the long pass for Lewis. Then in turn for Big Gene Miles, running out a beautiful ball. Here's a chance, Madison, turning it back for Wally Lewis, and he slides. That's experience. That's a great try.
Good work for the Broncos. They're prepared to move the ball. Under these conditions, had there been a leather football out there today, we would have had no contest whatsoever. Would have been a run from dummy half on every occasion. Brisbane showing they're prepared to move the ball out wide. I think it was a pass from Gene Miles that did put the ball up here to Madison. There it is. Miles to Madison, straight through. Lewis had cut back on the inside. Madison finds him nicely by spinning to look for him, and then dives low and hard. Lanane was no chance stopping him. Lewis slid over the try line by a good 5 or 6 metres. Look at this. Hits the ground beforehand, but still gets well across, and safety first football.
Well, it's a good breakthrough there for the Broncos, because things well and truly slipping away from them, but they've hit back at a vital time. And there's Terry Madison making the pass, stepping back inside, got away from the tackle of Longhurst, and then on to Wally Lewis, and Lewis did the rest from there, over in a big sea of slush, but there's no way in the world nobody was going to let that ball go.
There's no way in the world, Billy. Second try of the Winfield Cup, his 5th try of the season, after that hat-trick against Parramatta in the Cup semi-final. And now an historic moment as far as the Brisbane Broncos are concerned, because this man could be, with this kick, the first player to post 200 points for the club in their short history in the Winfield Cup. The flags go up. 200 for Whitfield Cup points for Terry Madison and his 50th point of the season. But more importantly, it's brought the Broncos back into striking range at 14 points to 6.
Well, who would have believed it? 20 points scored in around about 20 minutes in the match thus far, under the worst conditions you could ever imagine. So I guess you've got to give credit to the skill and quality of the players out there today. 26 players who've been prepared to back their skills against the conditions, and to come up with 20 points in around about 20-odd minutes is a credit to all concerned.
Well, Billy, I don't think I can remember working as hard to earn $1 as we have here this afternoon in 20 minutes of football.
I think just getting there is quite an achievement itself, isn't it, David? All right, here we go. It's the Broncos knocking on from the play the ball.
Well, they're the fundamental errors that will cost you dearly. We saw a little while ago St George's first try from Brian Johnson came as a direct result from a situation similar to this. A scrum to be packed after a Broncos error.
So it's Lanane to feed the scrum. In it goes. Caught up in the slush at the back there. But working it across field. Trying to find a way through that time was Gill. Or rather, it was Michael Beattie on that occasion. So now it's rolling on the ground. Got to be picked up over there this time by Coyne. Coyne tackled by French. So back it goes again. Kelly taking it up this time. Tackler over the top is Jackson. Now a cross over there this time. Lost. Rolls on the ground. Got to be picked up by Renouf. Renouf still going. On his way goes Renouf. Setting sail for that line. He's going to be caught by Walford from behind. Yes, he is. And pulled to the ground. But a big run by Steve Renouf.
Good chasing by Ricky Walford. Steve Renouf a real flyer, and Walford had the pace.
So now they spread it wide. That's Leman with it, getting it away to Dowling. Dowling up over the top. Oh, lost by Wally Lewis. Knocked it on. And the crowd loved that one, Tony.
He had to do it. It was a good pass by Greg Dowling. Wally Lewis called for it, just probably fractionally out in front of Lewis a bit high, but certainly the crowd here is very, very much behind St George, as would be expected, and of course their team turning it on.
So there it is, Lewis spilling the ball, so we'll have the scrum again. So a couple of errors creeping in here, David.
Well, there is, Bill, but the opportunities were on the outside there. Dowling threw the speculator pass, and Lewis just couldn't handle it, but there were about 4 men on the overlap.
Penalty coming up to St George out of that scrum.
Well, this is amazing. To look for a differential penalty under these conditions, and it looked to me the signal was not standing square on. The referee has got to be kidding. You're flat out standing up in these conditions.
So now it'll be...
all the best there in Brisbane. And we can let the secret out now. Billy J. Smith's down at the touchline.
Well, that's right. I'm no way in the world I was going up there. I'll give you the mail. Although I think I'll take the worst option somehow. I'm sitting in a sea of water.
We're under a waterfall.
So here we go now. It's St George. They lead at the moment by 14 points to 6. And working it across field. Taking it up there this time was Billy Noak. Be mixed emotions from Billy Noak today, David.
Well, I will, Bill, but he'll be out there to just win for St George. Plenty of incentive for him, of course. The Broncos effectively cut him from the list by giving him credit to go back to South in Brisbane. He didn't like that idea, decided to come home, back to his old club. On the 5th tackle now, St George, the high ball.
And back to Lanane, who juggles it and is going to be caught in possession.
Well, good defence, Brisbane. The high ball is extremely dangerous under these conditions. Brett Leman it was who realised the dangers, got up quickly and diffused the danger.
That's Gene Miles taking it up and upended in plenty of this Cogra oval mud. Dummy half is Walters, skirting away and eventually going to be wrapped up in the tackle coming about from Billy Noak. So the dummy half is Michael Hancock. Hancock straight ahead. Going to be wrapped up though. Longhurst coming around to get him.
I don't think Brisbane are kicking early enough in the tackle count. They're prepared to do these 2 or 3 tackles early and only kick afterwards.
This is Dowling. Dowling to Jackson. They're going to be wrapped up though. They've lost the ball.
Well, that's the end result of it all. Brisbane trying to play the game inside their own territory, and there's no future or benefit in it.
So now it's St George in possession.
One of the runners going out now to have a talk to one of the Brisbane players, and I can't even detect who it is. There's that much mud on him. Could be Michael Hancock on the wing, and it's those sort of instructions, I'm sure, that will lead.
So now it's St George in possession, getting up to play it is South. Away from dummy half to Longhurst, Lanane. Lanane getting it across then to Osborne. Osborne is eventually put to the ground. Lewis was in underneath. Coming in over the top was Gene Miles.
5th tackle.
Final tackle now. Here's the kick through. Let's have a look at it. Nice and high. Coming across towards Hancock's wing. Going to be taken over there this time by Beattie.
Beautifully taken. That's the 6th tackle turnover. Quick play the ball by Brisbane.
And it's Michael Hancock trying to find a way up, but finds plenty of St George defence right up on top of him. He'll play it now. Trying to find a way through there, but there's plenty of St George defence. They lead by 14-6. And they're going to keep those Broncos down there as much as they possibly can. Charging up the centre there. From the play the ball. Back to Walters. Walters knocking it on there.
Penalty.
No penalty.
Not standing square on. The double markers there moving too early. There's plenty of advantage to be got if you can get out of that mark position very quickly and make the tackle. There's going to be a lot of dummy half running from the Brisbane side under these conditions. And St George just trying to jump the gun. Peter Jackson is going to look for touch. You want to make sure of it.
Jackson finds touch. He's going to almost clean up his reserve bench. Just beside Big Sam Backer, that one landed.
Bill, a very interesting comment from a very loyal supporter of St George today about the fact that Wally Lewis had never played her at Jubilee or Cogra Oval.
Yeah.
I don't think Wally would miss it too much if he hadn't been here today.
No, that's Terry Madison taking it up now. In the headgear today, he's had quite a few bumps to the head so far this season. Obviously, that's a precautionary move. So now it's Broncos. About to play with Brett Lemand to Walters. Swinging it away to Langer, Lewis, then away to Miles. Miles with the pass outside to Jackson. Jackson going to be held up in the tackle though. Ricky Walford getting a cross over there. So from the play the ball. Trying to find their way through, but no chance of doing that at the moment. James Donnelly going to ground with it. Final tackle, there's the boot downfield. Going back as a fullback South. South will regather. Tries to step out. Got away from Madison's tackle. Doesn't get away from Langer. And also Kieran Walters coming into that one too. So it's Walford from dummy half. Straight ahead. Doesn't get far though. Well wrapped up. The crowd starting to boo. Tony, I think they trying to get through to this referee West, are they?
Well, it certainly is, as I said earlier, a very patriotic crowd. You'd have to be to come out in conditions like this. And I think sometimes, as we've seen, Bill, this season, it does work with the referees. I'm not saying it does with referee West, but it has in the past.
Well, it did with the reserve grade Bacon a few times today.
You're right.
So now, let's have a look. Pass to no one. Ball rolling on the ground. Still going. As the rain really tumbles down here as Michael Beattie plays it. Lemaine away from dummy half. French comes up to tackle. The kick comes in by Fullerton Smith. Going to be taken back there by Duffy. Duffy works across field, props, slips, and quickly going to be claimed. Dummy half waiting there for it is Alan Langer. Cross to Hancock. We won't see much of him doing any of those fancy steps today, I would imagine. So Walters up to dummy half. Sending it back inside, James Donnelly. St George's lead at the moment is 14 points to 6. And there's a knock-on in there from Walters.
Well, concentration must come at all times in a game like this. Jared Walters realised his error, but once again, St George, Brisbane making far too many mistakes, probably about twice as many as what St George have today. And for that reason, they're behind on the scoreboard.
Waiting for Lemaine to feed the scrum, which he does. Swings it out wide. But the defence coming in. Over the top there is French. From the play the ball, it was Beattie sending it across. Flick pass coming back in behind. And eventually South going to ground with it. About to play it now. The dummy half up there is Longhurst. Crowd starting to chant again. That's Osborne there with it. On the play the ball now, it's St George. About 15 metres inside Broncos territory. Working it out this time to Billy Noak. From the play the ball, there's a penalty coming up against the Broncos.
For pushing in the play the ball, I think he's got Michael Hancock for the last push on Billy Noak. The crowd were calling on each tackle in those consecutive play the balls for an offside penalty. However, it's only out of this particular incident. Billy Noak having a strong game so far. As we said, he's got plenty of reason to do that. He gets to his feet, plays the ball, and was pushed in that incident. Fair penalty.
Tony Durkin seemed to be a bit of indecision down there.
Yes, it looked as though Ricky Walford was asked whether he wanted to take the kick at goal, and on his first three attempts, I think he would have, but he said no.
St George losing the ball, it rolls loose. They've lost it again. Eventually it's going to be picked up by Renouf. And Renouf put to the ground about 8 metres out from the Broncos line. St George leading by 14 points to 6 at the moment here at Cogra Oval. And well, good afternoon, everyone. It's a wonderful time. Enjoying ourselves enormously. Who said this is a great life? So now it's the Broncos with it. Gene Miles trying to find a way through. On the play the ball this time, back to Leman. Leman well and truly wrapped up. Walters away from dummy half, sending a long one to Lewis. Lewis back the other way this time to Miles. Puts the boot underneath it. Deep down into St George territory, skids along and then stops dead quick. So now that's South taking it up. From the play the ball, away from dummy half, working across field this time is Coyne. There are all sorts of strife back there, taking it up this time. But the referee coming in to pack down a scrum.
Did James Donnelly have his hand in there to cause those problems for St George? It looked to me like there was a little bit of interference, and an opportunity now for Brisbane to get the scrum loose head and feet.
So we wait for Langer to feed the scrum. In it goes. Duffy trying to step his way through, still going as Duffy. Getting up towards that, just inside that quarter line. Away from dummy half, on it goes to French. French trying to find a way through, but can't. The defence coming across to take care of him. From the play the ball now, back it comes to Lewis. Lewis is going to be wrapped up. There's plenty of defence up there to take care of him. Langer to dummy half. Langer swings it away this time. Terry Madison working his way through. Madison wrapped up though. On it goes this time to Donnelly. Donnelly charging his way up. Got to be held up though. Chance for the Broncos to put on some pressure. St George are leading by 14 points to 6 at the moment. Walters swinging it away. Oh, Langer trying to get away through there, but ran into a bit of strife. So at this stage, David Fordham, they have the job ahead of them, the Broncos.
Yes, but they fought back very well after trailing by 14 points to 0 and suffering that avalanche of tries 2 in 2 minutes and really put them back on the back foot. But to their credit, they came back with a try by Wally Lewis and the subsequent conversion by Terry Madison, and 8 points the difference. But David, 8 points is a lot in a match like this played under these conditions.
Yes, you're going to earn every point you can get, but I do think the Brisbane side, their kicking game has been very ordinary, even when they've got inside St George territory. Once again, they left it to the very last tackle there for Alan Langer to put that kick in. It was a desperation one. The referees found a penalty here to Brisbane. Tony Durkin down on the sideline.
Maybe being a little bit hard on Brisbane with that kicking game, Righty. I can assure you that wind is very, very strong indeed down here, and it's favouring St George in the first half, into the faces of the Broncos, and I'm sure Lewis will use it well in the second half.
Well, I was about to say control of the football is also another priceless ingredient out there this afternoon, and it's finally been taken by Renouf over on the far side. Greg Dowling is the man that goes to dummy half, trying to exploit that short blind and makes big inroads, trying to get the pass back on the inside, but finally took the tackle. Good tactics by Dowling. Now it goes to Langer. Pass to Lewis. Pass back in for Jackson. He's lost it, and that's taken a bit of pressure off, and that gives us a chance to take a break from Cogra Oval. We'll be back with all the action in just a moment. Back here, 14 points to 6 into about 8 minutes to half time, and a very, very handy lead by St George, playing on their old home ground of Cogra Oval. And before the match, we showed those graphic pictures from the 1963 grand final, which St George won. The photos of Norm Provan and Arthur Summons, and the conditions nearly identical to those at the Sydney Cricket Ground some 26 years ago, David.
Yeah, not a great deal of difference there at all. And it's the side that'll play best under these conditions. And that is some pretty tight football and kicking downfield. Good comment by Tony Durkin. Obviously that wind is playing a big advantage, and St George will need a bit of a lead in this first half. They've got a good lead at the moment, 14-6. But rest assured Brisbane will be able to exploit that wind. Must admit I was hiding in behind an awning here to try and keep out of it. Brisbane make a good break.
Here's Big Gene Miles. The pass has gone astray again, so control of the football, as I mentioned, important. Brisbane have turned it over once again inside the 22 of St George, and a chance now for St George to run it out. That's south of 4. In fact, it's Coyne who takes play right to the quarter line before he is tackled by Duffy. Now it's taken by Ricky Walford, who's come looking for work on from that left wing, and he takes it to about 32 metres out from the St George goal line. Absolutely unbelievable conditions here today at Cogra Oval, but the St George side, their fans have braved the conditions, and their team lead by 14 points to 6. Big run upfield by Fullerton Smith. Into dummy half is Longhurst. Good tactics by the St George hooker, split them right up the middle, look for the pass on the inside, but he couldn't find Beattie on tackle number 4. Final tackle now. It's kicked downfield by Linane. Back it goes for Michael Hancock, right on his own 22. You've got to believe me when I say that, because you cannot see the line.
Also very hard to even look for support now. Players coming at you, you really wouldn't be able to pick whether they're one of yours or one of the opposition. So really got to think twice.
Oh, there's a good bust. Madison put in the clear by little Alan Langer, and he takes it to about 11 metres inside St George's end of the ground. Broncos desperate to try and put more points on the board here. Langer tries to open them up again, but he takes the tackle about 25 metres out from the St George line. The Broncos lined out on either side. They go right-hand side through Lewis. Lewis got the pass away, and it's finally Dowling that takes the tackle. Walters, a dummy half, coming open side again with Langer. They're setting it in the middle of the field. Langer passed it back beautifully for Madison. Another pass for Walters. Walters kept the pass alive. Greg Dowling. And Greg Dowling scores his first try of the 89 season. But what a vital one with 5 minutes to half-time, and a possibility of the other 2 points coming from the conversion from Madison brings them right back in the ball game.
Brilliant stuff by Brisbane. Madison it was, who's been on the end of most of the passes today. There's the number 13, been roundly congratulated by all these players. It was started by Alfie Langer, turns it back on the inside. Good tactics in wet weather football. Madison was the link man. Karen Walters managed to stand on his feet, just flicks it up, and Dowling packed up beautifully to get well across the try line. As we said, under atrocious conditions. Madison was on the inside, found Kerrod Walters, and Walters, look at that, that's beautiful play, Walters. He was taken by about 3 players, still managed to get free, got the hands there and fired it in mid-air.
David, I'll have to ask you to take the rest from there, because I'm having a few monitor problems here at the moment.
Okay, well, it was Madison. I've got to give full credit here too to Madison and to Kerrod Walters. I wonder what he would have done this time last year, David, in similar conditions. You just see the experience that has come from Kerrod Walters, the confidence of a young fellow in his first full season of great football.
Yes, and Kerrod Walters was criticised in previous years, and I guess a lot of his critics still existed right up to the times he's played first grade, but he was too much of an individualist, and so often that happens with a brilliant young schoolboy footballer coming into grade. In his schoolboy years, he's had to do it all himself, and therefore he continues in that practice for some period of time. But Kerrod Walters has now become a real team player. He does a lot of work out of dummy half. We were just talking on the plane down, Fordo, that it's almost surprising that he's only scored 1 try so far this season. And you know, good hookers are recognised as backup players, but Kerrod Walters is the man who's initiating so much in midfield, and he starts a lot of the good attacking play off.
Well, in fact, he scored that try last year. He and Greg Dowling were the only 2 forwards that hadn't scored so far this year. Greg Dowling has put paid to that. A bit of incentive now for Kerrod Walters to try and get on the scoreboard today. But Terry Madison with a very, very vital kick. About 3 or 4 minutes remaining to half-time. Madison has kicked 1 from 1 so far, and it's right in front. These normally would be an easy kick for Madison, but under these conditions, not one kick out there today is an easy one, but I can tell you every one will be vital. Well, the ball comes off the mound, and the referee has finally taken time off again. And the Brisbane bench doing it tough as well. I can tell you it is absolutely teeming down. Look at Big Sam Bacco has gone through the reserve grade game, suffered a bit of an injury, he's put the new socks and boots on and come back to sit on the bench. And conditions for, well, I can tell you for no one out there today. David Wright has just done another lovely sidestep to avoid another avalanche of water.
I don't believe this.
There's the kick. It goes under the bar. So 14-10 the score. So close to half-time here at Kogarah. And Tony Durkin, the most incredible thing about this, that we've seen 4 tries and 4 great tries in the first 37, 38 minutes of this first half in quagmire conditions.
The standard of rugby league has been absolutely superb, and before that missed attempted goal by Terry Madison, there'd been a 100% goal-kicking record as well, including 1 from the touchline by Ricky Walford. And may I just say that at the moment, I think it's almost stopped raining.
Well, that wind has certainly freshened up, I can tell you, from way up high on this commentary position. Scaffolding here at Kogarah Oval. So the conditions as far as the drop in temperature concerned, I'd say it's dropped 2 or 3 degrees since we've been here, David.
Yeah, I thought Bathurst was bad, but I'll tell you what, this is no better. There goes another avalanche straight down the front. But really now the Brisbane side, with only 2 minutes or so to go up to half-time, would be satisfied now at 14-10. They've come back terrifically well. He had big advantage of the breeze in the second half. They just don't need to sacrifice any more points. Kerrigwell is a good break. Must be safety first now. Can't afford to let St George back into it.
Well, Billy, even some of your rebel calls back in the early days probably wouldn't rival what we've had to go through here today.
No, we did get a bit of wind occasionally there, but not a heck of a lot of rain. But we were pretty much set up for it. But on this occasion, I think we've missed the boat.
We need a boat.
So St George now working out from their own quarter line. They lead by 14 to 10. They got away to a tremendous lead of 14 points to 0. And I suppose on that basis, David, Craig Young would be a little bit concerned that St George have allowed Brisbane to come back into the game.
He would be. He would have thought that at 14-0 the game was almost won. It's very hard to score under these conditions. Credit to Brisbane. If they can come out with a win on this particular game, it will do enormous amounts for the side in the matches to come. They will have proven they can come back under almost any condition. Fifth tackle.
There's the kick deep downfield. That ball will skid. It slid right into the in-goal area, and it's picked up by Duffy, and he'll run it out to take it about 5 or 6 metres out from his own goal line. Yeah, it's an important game for this Brisbane side, because over the next few weeks, as well as the state of origin commitments of 5 or 6 of their players, they face Canberra, Cronulla, Canterbury, Souths and Penrith, and then after that it's Manly. So it really is a tough road to hoe over the next 6 or 7 matches in the Whitfield Cup. Into the final minute of this first half, and Brisbane have fought back very, very well to trail by 14 to 10. But let's give full marks to this St George side. They came out with guns blazing in the first 15 minutes of this match and opened up a tremendous lead of 14 to 0. Now Langer searching out wide, the gap open. Ball's loose on the ground, a chance. Oh, it's racing away. Johnston.
It's been knocked down. He's called it back.
He's called it back. The crowd went up in expectation.
Well, did he knock it down though? The referee decided he did. The crowd is booing. Boy, what a vital decision that was. Could have been Johnston in for his second try. Here it is, Langer it was, who tried to get through the defensive line. Was the ball knocked down? Gee, I didn't think it was. Picked up by Johnston. And away he went. The referee thought otherwise, and Brisbane off the hook.
Gee, I wonder how vital that will be at the end of the 80 minutes. I agree with you, David. I thought that was a fair try, and that would have taken the wind right out of the sails of Brisbane, who have clawed their way back into contention in this match.
Yep, it just shows you just how important even these last dying seconds are. Brisbane in possession. They must retain possession and then kick it. There it is, the half-time heater, and that'll do. 14-10 half-time Brisbane.
First 40 minutes produced 4 tries, 2 apiece. The difference in the score has been the goal kicking of Ricky Walford, who's kicked 3 from 3, and St George lead the game by 14 points to 10. And I suppose all the chants back in Brisbane would be saying for the second half, let's go Broncos. Well, I can assure you as we welcome you back to the Cogra Oval in Sydney, conditions haven't improved while you've been having that cup of tea. I wish we could have joined you. We noticed that Wally Lewis, along with Donnelly and Brett Leman, have not changed their jumpers during the half-time break. The rest of the Broncos have, and the St George side have come out with brand new strips on for the second half, which is a bit of a help for us and also for you people back home, but that won't be for too long. But Tony Durkin, the interesting thing is that there has been a change to this Broncos lineup, and that is, of course, Grant Ricks, David, has come into the side. He was a fresh reserve.
Well, he was, and he'll come in now in place of Gary French. Gary French, who was playing his unaccustomed role in the centres. Grant Ricks now will take up that part.
Okay, as Wally Lewis gets the game underway, a true champion of this Brisbane side, we go down to a past champion of Jubilee Oval, or Cogra Oval as it is now known. That is, of course, the great Johnny Raper. He's with Tony Durkin.
Well, Johnny, we're talking about how disgraceful the conditions are here today for the players, but you experienced something just as bad as this in the 63 grand final.
Yes, it was a pretty bad day that day. The players could only run one way, and that's straightforward. But I must say this about the game today. It's been an exceptionally good game of football from both sides. There's nothing in this game, and I think that we'll see that the experience will show in this game, and that's what will probably decide who's going to be the winner.
You sound like you might be going for the Broncos then, because certainly they're the most experienced side.
Yeah, well, they've played well and deserve to be at the top of the competition. There's no doubt about that. They've played some magnificent football this year. A lot of their players have experience with playing the state of origin, so they thoroughly deserve to win. And I've got enough problems tonight trying to pick the state side for New South Wales.
Well, all the best with that, John, and thanks very much for your time in these atrocious conditions.
I'd like to say hello to all my friends up there in Queensland. We had a bit of a battle last week, but still in all, I love the place and love your football team.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Good on you, Chook Draper there. And Chook celebrated his 50th birthday just a couple of weeks ago, and a week or so later, another legend, Reg Gasnier, turned 50 as well. But it's great to see him here. As he mentioned, conditions very similar to that St George triumph of 1963. But anyway, it's no change to the halftime score, which saw the Saints lead the Broncos by 14 points to 10 and play just outside the St George 22. Tony Durkin, I know that you mentioned that breeze was up in the first half. I think it's freshened at the back of the Broncos in the second 40 minutes.
Yeah, it seems to, David. It's not quite as heavy, the rain at the moment, but the wind is coming in gusts. In fact, as I speak, I'm having trouble holding my umbrella, and it certainly is very, very strong. And any wind that's there at the moment is certainly at the back of the Broncos.
Well, there's the kick from Lanane. Difficult conditions for any fullback out there today. That ball stopped, but it was confidently picked up by Duffy. And a good strong run. David takes it back to the halfway line.
Yes, well picked up Duffy on the run. He took a bit of a chance to get at it, but Brisbane now playing their game just where they need to play it now. That's right on the halfway line, even though you can't see any semblance of a line itself. Brisbane will be looking to play all this 40 minutes inside St George's territory, and with the advantage of that breeze and early kicking, I really think that's the way to go. Kick very early on the tackle count, take no chances at all, and let the other side make the mistakes.
Well, I think this man running wide could cause some damage in the second half. Big Gene Miles, there's the...
Well, it's a silly thing. Gene Miles there, just a bit over keen. He played the ball forward, definitely had a marker in Johnston. Mistakes coming from the Brisbane side. St George now will be able to get out of their own territory. There's Johnston up to mark. Gene Miles cannot pick up in the middle of the ruck. He knew immediately as the whistle blew that there was only one way the penalty could go. And St George now with their chance, 14-10. If they can add first points, they'll go a long way to securing this match. Brisbane just have to hold on.
Well, St George have led from the moment that Ricky Walford put them in the lead by 2-0. They then scored 2 converted tries in the space of 2 minutes to lead 14-0. And then the Broncos stormed back in that final 20 minutes to bring it back to 14 points to 10 with tries to Lewis and also to Greg Dowling. But now it's St George with a chance to launch another attack. There's the wraparound with Gill and also Lanane. The ball out wide. It's picked up by Beattie. It's turned back infield, but the defence is there of Madison. Play midway between the half and the 22. Running away from dummy half is South. He gets to his feet at the tackle of Lewis. Now it's back for Mackay. Final tackle now for the Dragons. Testing time for the Broncos defence. Play on the quarter line. The kick by Lanane, the ball into the in goal. Will it go dead in goal? It has, so play will come back to the quarter line for the restart of play with about 4.5 minutes of play gone in the second half.
I'll say it again now, be very surprised if Brisbane do not. Here's Wally Lewis, he's going to take the tap and kick, I think, straight away. They're the tactics to adopt. That's the way to go. Get it down the other end and say, OK, play your football down there and make your mistakes down that end of the field.
Well, the experience of players like Lewis and Dowling and Miles will be the telling factor as this Brisbane side are going to get back into level terms. And we saw the experience of both those players in the tries in that first half. The slide by Lewis from 5 metres out took no risk whatsoever to get the ball over the line. And then we saw Greg Dowling going over his first try of the year. But now St George comes steaming back. Good pass for Coyne. Coyne up towards the quarter line. Wrestled to the ground by Duffy and Jackson.
The pass was from Gill, and he's had a blinder today.
That ball's been knocked on by Brisbane. Correct decision by referee West.
Just dragged forward, even though he's facing the opposite direction. Donnelly doesn't agree with it. But Peter Gill's had a terrific game today. That's Mark Coyne getting up. He received the pass from Peter Gill, played on quickly, kicked ahead. There's the ball, even though he's standing in the opposite direction, dragged it towards his opponent's try line. And St George have come up with the scrum. Pressure on.
And Mackay comes off the back of the scrum. It's Lanane that goes to dummy half. The St George side lined out deep. It goes to Gill, who really has played superbly in that first half. 2 outstanding passes that put players in the clear for tries. Now Longhurst using the blind side. The kick through. It's loose on the ground. It's picked up by St George and 6 more to go.
Well,
Mackay got the pass away, but it's a Broncos ball.
Hard to see how the referee can work out 6 to go. It was only a rebound. You must play at the ball for it to be 6 to go.
And St George have maintained possession, charge for the line. Osborne very, very close. Longhurst to dummy half, test for the Broncos defence again. It's loose on the ground for Lanane. One-handed pass floating. Now they move it out wide, knock on. Forcing the pass in these conditions. They're trying to move it wide to try and expose that Brisbane defence out wide, but it gives the Broncos a chance now to win the ball back from the scrum.
Certainly opportunities were out there, but the pass from Beattie wasn't a particularly good one. Oh no, it was out to Beattie, I should say, from Johnston. Brisbane now need to win this scrum and once again get the ball down the other end of the park.
Tony Durkin on the touchline.
The crowd today, 6,691. Absolutely marvellous under these atrocious conditions. 6,691.
I didn't think there were that many lunatics in Sydney, David.
They're all here today.
A very loyal band of supporters for St George, and that of course beats their ground average of last year when they were away from Cogra Oval. Their average at Belmore last year was only about 5,700. So 7.5 minutes of play gone in the second half, and it's 14-10, no change to the half-time scoreline.
I can't believe the play that Brisbane are trying to put on in the middle of that absolute swamp. They're trying to play some wet weather football.
Now Lewis got the pass away. It's been kicked by Miles, taken by Duffy. 6 more to go. Duffy takes it straight upfield.
Or should I say they're trying to play some dry weather football, and really in those conditions you can't play football at all.
Now Donnelly. Another great sidestep here in the commentary box by David Wright as the water come tumbling down again. It's Langer, got it to Lewis. It goes out to Jackson. He held the pass up high. High tackle on Madison, but the referee allows play to go on. Now blindside Jackson again. And about, let's have a look at this one again of Madison.
Pass out from Jackson to Madison there in the headgear, and across comes Peter Gill above the shoulders.
Now South back towards his own quarter line, decides to run it across field. Tried to get away from the tackle of Walters, but he and Jackson combined to put him on the ground. Midway between the half and the 22, it's at St George's end of the ground. They lead by 4 points in this round 11 clash of the Winfield Cup, and an absolutely entertaining first 40 minutes under these abysmal conditions. And after about 8.5, 9 minutes of play in the second half, no change to that half-time scoreline. Play settled up towards halfway. Good break by St George. Billy Note got the pass away. Oh, the ball's gone loose on the ground. Picked up by Lenane, but the referee will blow the whistle for the knock-on. So after 10 minutes of this second half, it's 14 points to 10 in favour of St George. And Billy, the conditions just have not improved one bit.
Yes, unbelievable conditions at this stage. But as we were saying before, for the amount of tries that we've seen, that's the thing that really does amaze us, doesn't it? All right, what's happening down there? Tony Durkin.
Miles has been called out, no doubt, for an incident a moment ago with Shane Kelly where Gino threw one, and it was from the shoulder too, and referee Graham West just sending him back after that caution.
So Langer with the pass that just hit the slosh in front of Wally Lewis. He picks it up and then takes it from there. So this is Duffy into it. Oh, look at the mud fly. Duffy, no, he thinks he's in Mount Isa, I think, after that. My goodness. So now it's very, very sloshy in that centre field. Coming in with the tackle finally there was Brad Mackay. Dummy half is Walters. Duffy injured in that tackle. It was a hefty hit, all right. Coming in this time is Michael Hancock. And they have hit the real slush in the centre there. Back to Lewis. The boot coming in underneath it. Driving it deep down in St George's territory. Stops almost as soon as it lands. Coming across is South. South working his way through. But getting over there on the tackle this time to take care of him is Renew.
Billy, I'd go as far as to say that St George will not score a try from their own end of the ground as Ricky Walford makes a half break, and that's where Brisbane have got to play the game. I just can't believe they're not kicking earlier on the tackle count.
That's Billy Noak taking it up, or rather it's Osborne on this occasion. Getting up to play it. Away from dummy half Longhurst. St George making some headway up there. Longhurst again as he takes it back there after it's played by Fullerton Smith. Now trying to find a way through, still going, but the referee calling it back.
Well, this crowd today, they'll go home hoarse, but not from cheering their own team. It'll be from booing the referee for not awarding penalties against the Brisbane side for what is supposedly inside the 5 metres. Every time Brisbane are in a defensive situation, the crowd starts to boo.
In by Alan Langer. Langer runs around that open side, cuts out Lewis. They keep it going, the ball rolling loose. Renouf will have to go back to pick it up. He runs straight ahead, can't get away from the tackle of Mackay though. From the play the ball. Well picked up that time by Duffy. Had to really stoop down to pick it up.
Lost it. Well, you will lose it too. Brisbane trying to ruck the ball on their own halfway line. Duffy in the middle of the mud. 4 players hit him. Almost impossible to hold the ball under those conditions. And something's got to give.
And down he goes again. Duffy losing it on the way through. Well, he's just recovering from quite a heavy knock in the centre of the field a short time ago, where the mud flew in all directions.
Billy, Tony Durkin down there on the sideline. It almost looks to be a little bit brighter here, if it's possible, Tony.
Yeah, certainly. The sun is trying very hard to peek through, and the rain is only sprinkling down at the moment. But certainly the Broncos making heaps of mistakes in this absolutely disgraceful condition.
Well, St George making a mistake on that occasion enables the Broncos to end up with possession, and Greg Dowling takes it up. He'll play it back to Walters. Walters outside to Grant Ricks, the replacement player at the half-time break. And so they keep it going again. Lewis turning it back inside. That's Terry Madison. Now Michael Hancock hurdles Madison. He's playing the ball now. This is Walters. Players everywhere out there at the moment.
Interfering in Walters, one of the players lying on the ground there as Walters tried to dash out of the dummy half position. The penalty going to Brisbane around about midfield. Peter Jackson to look for touch.
Well, while he's doing that, we might take a break. Be back in a moment. It's St George leading by 14-10. Okay, here we take the tap now. It's Walters onto the mark. Tony Durkin, another report for us.
Terry Madison's coming on. He's got blood coming from his nose, so he's copped another one, Terry Madison. And Andrew G is the player coming on. I'd say, though, Terry Madison, I'll check, but I'm sure he's just going to the head bin as the Broncos attack.
Yes, they lead by 14 points to 10 at the moment. Walters working across field. Gene Miles gets it away to Jackson. Jackson sending it over the top. This is Ricks back inside to Renouf. Renouf is going to be held up in the tackle. Getting right in underneath there to put him down was the centre in Brian Johnston. So they're getting close. Trying to work his way through as Miles gets it back to Lewis. Lewis still going. Was thinking about sending it over the top to Renouf, but decided to hang on to it. He'll get up to play it. Walters to dummy half. Broncos putting on the pressure. Walters back to G. He's easy to pick. Dummy half Walters again. A little kick through. It's back into the in-goal area, but dived on by St George. Coming away with it over there was Billy Nutt.
And Peter Jackson claiming he was pulled back and held back as he tried that chase to follow that kick through Bill in the end goal.
So now we'll see a drop out from underneath the goal mouth, and David Wright, I don't think we'll see this one go too far, will we?
No, but Noel Clear will be hoping that it goes a bit further, or if we think back, there's Madison at the moment. Of course, Noel Clear tried to drop out in the State of Origin game and it didn't move at all. Tony Durkin on the touchline.
The doctors come down to check on Terry Madison. He's in the sin bin or not at this stage, so we'll just have to wait and see.
Well, with him, if he is in the head bin, Bill, we'd hope that he'd come back, because this game could well be decided by either goal kicker, and it's very important that Madison gets back in that regard.
You betcha. That's James Donnelly taking it up there. Dummy half is Walters. It's St George leading by 14-10. This is Dowling. Dowling setting sail up the centre, was looking around, was thinking about getting it away, but decided to go to ground with it. So he'll play it to Walters, up his dummy half. On it goes this time to Donnelly. Donnelly loses it straight into the hands of Linane. Linane quickly going to be wrapped up by Peter Jackson, though. Walford's up his dummy half. Walford straight ahead. Gerard Walters coming across. He takes him ball and all.
Important Brisbane doesn't get offside here now. They don't want to give away offside penalties.
Yes, they want to keep St George down there as much as they can. Up his dummy half is Longhurst. Sending it outside then to Fullerton Smith. St George with that lead, that 4-point advantage at this stage. Oh, they've knocked it on, rolls loose, dived on by Peter Jackson. So away from dummy half. Oh, it's going to be lost this time too by the Broncos. And not terribly happy with himself there is Shane Duffy. And Tony Durkin, just while we're talking about the mud, you were having a chat to some of the reserve graders here at that half-time break. Apparently they had
apparently the problem was Bill Tony's struggling with the microphone, but what was the mud getting in the eyes, Tony?
Yes, the reserve graders, a number of them had very, very red eyes indeed, and if you notice, the St George runner is almost permanently on the sideline, just with that bottle spraying the water out of the eyes, and I can assure you that mud out there is absolutely stinking.
Okay, so they've earned their money today, these boys. I think we all have, actually. Dummy half waiting up there for it this time is Longhurst. Sends the pass outside to Billy Noak. From the play the ball. Setting it back over there this time. Taking it up is Fullerton Smith. Change coming up in the St George side. Tell you about it in a moment. There's the kick through. Duffy will go back there, picks it up and starts to run. What's the story, Tony?
Jason Hugerworth in jersey number 42 is coming on for St George, and he'll replace Paul Osborne. One-man mountain on for another.
Yeah, big fellow, isn't he? So now it's the Broncos. Attempting to ruck it out from there. There's Hugerworth. Gene Miles holding on to that ball for grim death at the moment. From the play the ball. Walters going to be wrapped up and put to ground. Plays it quickly though. They clear it. Now it goes to Lewis. Lewis with a kick through. And eventually going to be taken back there by South for St George. So they still hold that lead of 14 points to 10. No points scored in this second half.
He's played well down south. He's been at the back for St George all day under some of the worst conditions a fullback could ever endure. And he's done his job well. And a young guy, he's played very well. He's keeping Mick Potter in reserve grade.
So from the play the ball out to Billy Noak. Noak in turn is taken in the tackle of Brett LeMan. So away from dummy half, working it up on where the ground is a little bit firmer out wide. They're still going, and it's eventually Longhurst going to ground with it, but a good run.
Michael Hancock knocked him over and just stood off him and allowed him to start up and run again.
So now it's St George, now starting to throw it around. South into the back line, but a flying tackle is going to knock him over. Getting across over there this time was Donnelly.
Fifth tackle.
So here's the running game of St George. They're not going to kick. It's Lanane. Now he kicks, but it's going to be taken back there by Duffy.
The importance of playing the game down in the opposition's half nearly came good for St George then. A lesson to be learned there by the Broncos.
So now they try to ruck it out.
We're just talking about that wind. Tony Durkin down on the sideline. The rain's just about abated, Tony, but that wind really seems to come up strongly.
Very, very strong indeed. Now the wind very strong. As I said, it's favouring the Broncos, and that change has now been made. Paul Osborne has been replaced by Jason Hugerworth, and I can tell you big Paul Osborne did not want to come off either.
So it'll be Jackson the kick for touch, and David Fordham up there. We're just about halfway through the first half, and no points at this stage. A very important passage of play coming up.
Yeah, no change to that half-time scoreline that read 14-10 in favour of St George, and a chance now for the Broncos to try and work play up over the halfway line and get right out of the danger area. They must play this ball game down St George's end of the ground. That's great defence. And down on the touchline is Paul Osborne with Tony Durkin.
Well, Paul, you must be very, very pleased looking at that scoreboard. 14-10 in front with 10 minutes to go. You think the Dragons can hang on?
Yeah, I think so, mate. I don't think these conditions today suited Brisbane. We knew that they'd had that game during the week. It's very heavy out in the middle.
You've obviously had a match plan and you've stuck to it. Keep it up the middle.
Well, that's right, mate. You know, their forwards are going to be tight. This heavy track's not making it easy for them. If we put the pressure on early, we'd get that early lead, which we did.
Paul, it looks like a pigsty out there, mate. What's it like to have a home ground like this?
Oh, mate. Oh, mate, we love it here, but, you know, it's suiting us. We're winning the games with this in the mud here, so hopefully we'll keep it up.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, as Peter Jackson looks for touch on this grandstand side of Cogra Oval, we'll take a break and be back in just a moment. Back here at Cogra Oval, the ball taken up by G. We're about 18 minutes away from the end of this match. It's been a tremendous game so far. Terry Mattison has returned to the fray. Who's about to bring his way back on. Renouf sees the ball go over the top. And Terry Mattison now comes on. It appears that G will be the man that will come off. And that's good news for the Broncos because Terry Mattison has had a few problems. We see that loose pass go astray to Renouf in the last couple of weeks with knocks to the head. But his goal kicking out there in the final 17 or 18 minutes of play could be very crucial to the Broncos' chances here this afternoon. Now Gill to the back of the scrum, wrapped up by Lewis over the top. St George camped inside their own 22. Good break made by Kelly. Gets to his feet and plays the ball. In fact, it was Ricky Walford who took play upfield. Johnston, 5 metres short of halfway. Longhurst. And St George really doing the job. They're making easy yards up the middle in dreadful conditions. That time it was Fullerton Smith. Now they move it again. It's passed out wide. Beautiful pass, a chance. Billy Noak wrapped up in the tackle. 10 metres short of the quarter line, the final tackle. St George on the move. It goes to Linane. And a penalty. What a crucial one this could be. The players calling out for Linane not to take the quick tap. They're going to look for the 2 points.
Well, the crowd's been calling for the penalty for the majority of the match. They finally got it, and there's their elation. They've done their job today in implying the referee to give a penalty. He's finally found one. It was on the 5th tackle, and what a time to get one. 5th tackle, and St George a chance for right in front. But boy, nothing's a gimme today as Ricky Walford wipes the mud aside to try and get a mound. A little sandboy there with the bucket. It'll be the only bit of dry material on the ground today.
Ricky Walford will be kicking Tony right into what would be a very, very strong nor'easter.
It's a very, very strong breeze indeed, David. It really has struck up in the second half. In fact, I'm glad it stopped raining because I was having trouble holding my umbrella.
I'm very sorry to hear that, Tony.
Yeah, well, but it's very strong indeed.
So the kick about 22 metres out. And it's about 5 metres to the left of the upright. A very vital kick. 100% kicking record for Ricky Walford so far this afternoon. He's also scored a try. So he's scored so far this year just on 60 points for the St George side. 164 last year, including 15 tries.
Paul Osborne made a good point there in talking with Tony Durkin that, of course, the Brisbane side who played against South Sydney on Wednesday night, they'll feel tired, and under these conditions, St George have exploited that, and for them to gain this penalty right in front, they rucked the ball length of the field.
Vital kick. G. Walford struck it well, but he's pushed it away to the right, and it's now for the Broncos to run it out.
Oh, he's got Hancock for putting his foot over the dead ball line. Boy, what a turning point this is. Hancock trying to ruck the ball out, Wally Lewis querying the situation. Now, if he took it on the full and he had his foot over the dead ball line, then it should be a 22-metre tap. But the referee is, let's see, was he over the dead ball line when he took the ball? Do they signal straight away, or does he move back to put it over? Well, it looked like he was in the position when he took it. Should have been a 22-metre dropout, but instead forced a 22-metre goal line dropout.
Well, how important could this be? Because St George have really picked their game up as a result of that. They're inside the attacking 22. The Broncos up very flat in defence. And crucial time for both teams now. St George really looking for it as Hoogerworth takes it upfield. The big replacement prop forward. And he's only about 5 metres short of the goal line. It's St George on the move again with Linane, the kick and chase. But he's been taken out of play, but the referee says play on.
St George in possession, knocked on this time. The crowd calling for that passage of play. Peter Gill not happy. But a scrum to pack now, loose head and feed Brisbane. Let's have a look at it. Well, he was certainly taken out of play. A penalty easily could have been eventuated there. Was doweling the offending player. The referee, who could blame him under these conditions? You can't see what's going on out there. Scrum to pack, Brisbane to feed.
And appears another replacement player warming up on the touchline for St George as Duffy tries to run it out 8 metres short of the goal line. No room for mistakes by Brisbane inside their quarter. And Tony, what's the situation with that St George replacement?
Well, Matt Elliott is the player coming on, David, in jersey number 41. He's a fresh reserve. He looks like one too, and he's lovely white jersey, but we're not quite sure who he will replace. And Wayne Bennett has come down to the Broncos bench for the Broncos, and Big Sam Bacco in jersey number 21 is warming up.
Well, Matt Elliott came on as a replacement last week against Balmain, set up a try straight away, actually scored a try when he came on within a minute, and then later in the game he set one up for Clinton Moore. Final tackle now for Lewis as he drives it deep downfield. It's just outside the quarter line, fielded by Darren South. He runs straight into Madison and Langer and takes the tackle about 10 metres out from his own quarter line. It's Linane, got the pass away for Walford. It goes in turn out for Beattie, then it goes out this time to Coyne, and Coyne takes it up that pass, thrown into field. It's another St George ball. Tony Durkin.
Matt Elliott in jersey 41 has replaced Wally Fullerton-Smith in jersey 11.
So Fullerton-Smith off the field, the man that played 3 of the State of Origin games last year. He's fallen out of favour of the representative selectors in '89. And nothing would give him more satisfaction, David, to win back a spot in that Queensland second row. He really loves to play in those matches.
He does. He might have to wait his time, but he's just the sort of player that, given the opportunity, he certainly won't let Queensland down. The crowd appealing there for an obstruction. but the referee will have nothing of it.
So Hancock takes the tackle of Elliott. No one marking him, makes another 5 or 6 and settles it right in the middle of that slush. And big slam and Sam Bacco, who played about 60 minutes of that match the other night at Bathurst in the Panasonic Cup. It appears he'll be coming on for Greg Dowley. Now Lewis exploiting the blind side, the pass. Good, Miles, the pass has been knocked down. And it appears that the scrum feed will be St George.
13 minutes to go, and the score, as it was at half-time, 14 points to 10. And the ground announcer announces then the change, and it's Big Sam Bacco for Greg Dowling.
So Big Sam will take his place in the front row.
Against the head, Brisbane.
Who's come up with it?
Madison, I
Madison
think.
is the man with the ball. That's a vital scrum win. And although the rain has stopped, it is just absolutely unbelievable conditions. Bacco, first run. Well, the big man could make some very, very valuable yardage for Brisbane. Now it goes through Langer again, through the dummy. Langer, kicked off around the ankles. So no change to this half-time score, 14-10. And it appears how crucial that opening burst by the St George side, where they scored 14 points in the first 17 or 18 minutes of this match, how crucial they be. Langer with a toe through, a chance now, it's been touched. Back comes Coyne to wrap it up inside his own quarter.
Peter Gill must get a lot of credit there. Peter Gill, as he realised the kick was on, told Coyne to drop back on that far wing. He hadn't done, and it was only because of that Coyne was then back in a position to recover for the fullback South.
So Walford, who really has done his work out there today, he's gone looking for work all day, David.
And has he made some ground out of that dummy half position? He's made a couple of good runs, and he was in a similar position a little while ago that St George got their roll on through a Ricky Walford run.
The final tackle now for St George. We'll see the kick to drive it deep downfield again. No, this time they decided to run it on their last tackle. It's picked up by Beattie. The cover defence comes across, the pass down to Walford. Walford up over the halfway line, step back in beautifully. Support on the inside. This time it's no, but he's lost the ball. And the decision to run it on the final tackle could nearly have paid dividends there, Billy, for St George.
Certainly did, David, and they almost came through with a big flourish there to finish on from it there. But now the Broncos in possession, and only about 10 minutes to go in this match, so they still trail by the 4 points. And Tony, that rain's starting to come down. I don't think it makes much difference to anyone now. They're all wet, aren't they?
Yes, but it's a little bit more miserable for the crowd, who most of them put their umbrellas down, but certainly that rain is starting to tumble down again.
So that's big Sam Bacco taking it up, away from dummy half Walters. Going to end up in the hands of Brett LeMan. He in turn sends it back to Langer. Langer trying to find a way through, but is knocked down in the tackle of Elliott. Another replacement, Tony.
Andrew G in jersey number 24 will replace Brett LeMan.
All right, taking it up this time is Donnelly. Final tackle. Walters is dummy half. Swings his pass away to Lewis. Lewis upfield. Got to be knocked down back there by South. South decides to run it out. He's going to be well and truly taken over there, though, by Terry Madison. Oh, it's going to be a knock-on there in the dummy half spot.
The referee didn't miss it either. Right on the 22-metre line, dead set midfield. Here's a replacement, Tony Durkin on the sideline.
Andrew G coming on for Brett LeMan.
What an opportunity here for Brisbane now. Scrum midfield.
Have the scrum packing down with Langer lining up with it. There's the Brett LeMan leaving the field. Langer runs it out, still going. Now away to Duffy. Duffy going to be well wrapped up, though, in the tackle of Johnston. Finding to get up to play the ball. Played forward, taking it himself. Still going, eventually put down there by Elliott. Now a chance for the Broncos. What can they do? Walters runs it out. Now he gets it away to Bacco. Bacco slips over as he tried to cut back inside. This is Walters. Away from dummy half. Turn it back to Langer. Langer trying to dodge and weave to Walters. Then out it comes to Ricks. He's going to be put to the rather G, was it? Yes, G on that occasion. A little bit hard to work them all out here at the moment. Madison stepping back inside, still going Terry Madison, losing it in the tackle, and it'll be a St George ball. Now the picture tells the story, doesn't it?
Two warriors, Greg Dowling and Brett LeMan, have worked very hard, as we've mentioned, all these players, or many of them, Lang has stolen the ball. Chances on the left.
Madison is on dummy half. He turns it back then to G running straight back into the forwards there.
Still chances on the left.
So we'll see what Walters does with it. He swings it out that way. Turning it back inside to Lewis. Lewis over the top. Desperation stuff, but Langer comes away with it. Wrapped up in the tackle by Brian Johnson.
St George defence has been very strong. Brisbane have been in this position a number of times today.
St George lead by 14-10. A little kick through by Walters. Going to be gathered in there by Longhurst, his opposite number. So now it's St George. Weathered that little bit of a storm. Trying to take it forward. The man with it there was Kelly. So away from dummy half, working across field is Longhurst. St George still maintain that 4-point advantage.
Craig Young thought, Billy, that today might have been the day if they played them under these conditions to get away with Brisbane, but their ball control has been one of the features of the game after they opened up that big lead.
Yeah, well, that brilliant start, of course, really shook the Broncos. Full marks, and they were able to come back and get it to the 14-10, but plenty of other sides might have just lost it completely. And that rain tumbling down still. Duffy up the centre, losing it in the tackle. St George ball. A little bit of trouble getting back up to his feet here. Very slow play the ball on that occasion. Taking it up was Hugerworth. Away from dummy half, Lenane sends it outside this time to Kelly. Dummy half waiting for it is Coyne. He wasn't sure what to do, eventually sent the pass outside. Still going on this occasion, and eventually going to ground in the tackle.
Good game from Billy Note today. He's had a point to prove to Brisbane, and he's done his work very well.
Penalty coming out of this one to St George.
Not standing square on at the marker position.
And while they're lining up to kick for touch, we'll take a break. At the moment, it's St George 14-10. So back here now with St George, maintaining that lead.
They took the tap there. They refused to look for touch under these conditions, weren't prepared to take the chance.
Desperation stakes for them in the defence department a couple of minutes ago, but they've weathered that storm. Hugerworth sending it outside, coming through as Kelly. And there's a bump to the head coming up there too to Peter Jackson by the look of it. Lenane sending it outside. Nice pass, running onto it. Oh, just going to be lost there. Put down was Beattie. Still St George keeping on the boil, letting it go wide to Walford. Walford tackled by Renouf though, and Lewis trying to force him into touch and succeed.
And puts a penalty though, a second tackle is when awarded against Wally Lewis. He came in, the tackle had been affected by Walford. Lewis knocked him to the ground with 5 minutes to go. St George now putting all their pressure on. They still lead in the match by 14 points to 10. Have a look at it again. The tackle was by Renouf. Now, he'd let him go. I reckon once he'd been let go, Lewis had every right because Walford could easily have got up and run the ball then. The referee thought otherwise, thought the push was a second tackle. And St George now with a chance to go on the attack.
So back inside it goes to Hugerworth. The crowd starting to chant for the Dragons. Coming up as dummy half is Longhurst. Longhurst turns it away. But the defence holds on quite solidly this time as Billy Note plays it. Dummy half Longhurst again. South into the back line. This is Elliott. Elliott sending it across field. Oh, still going. Eventually Kelly unloads. St George putting on the pressure. Longhurst again, swinging it wide. This is Lenane. Lenane turns to try and get his pass around. The kick for touch over there by Beattie.
Good kick.
And it's going to be picked up by Coyne. Coyne tries to send it back inside, rolling on the ground. And into... forced back over there is Michael Hancock.
Well, the referee decided that it wasn't touched or knocked forward by St George, and therefore he allowed the ball to still be alive. It must have been a ball that was knocked down by the Broncos, and in the in-goal area, the ball's still alive. They've taken it over touching goal.
So here's the drop out from underneath the goal mouth by Lewis. Goes about 30 metres, but stops dead in its tracks once it landed.
Only about 2.5 minutes left, Bill.
Okay, that's Kelly up there as dummy half. Here's St George finishing on strongly here. They got a great start to the match, rattled up a big lead. and have been able to defend it ever since. Even though the Broncos hit back and got it to 14-10. It's St George putting on the pressure now as South will play it. From the play the ball, dummy half is Longhurst. He clears it, cutting his way through Hoogerworth. Crashing for the line here, he unloaded it, in for the try.
Looked like Brian Johnston, I think.
Yeah, Brian Johnston it is.
They're elated. They came up against the top side in the competition. The crowd have come out in their numbers. St George looked like they won a grand final. A pass beautifully up. Brian Johnston got the pass. The little hooker in Gary Longhurst is absolutely wrapped in things. St George have applied the pressure. They jumped to a lead of 14 points to nil at one stage. Brisbane fought back valiantly. It hasn't been enough though. The replacement forward there, and Hoogerworth stood his ground, popped the pass up, and for his second try, Brian Johnston goes across. St George have won this one. The decision by Craig Young to play under these conditions has been vindicated, and they have played some great football, St George, to defend this lead and extend it to come up with the premiership points.
They certainly have, as David mentioned, they decided to play it under these quagmire conditions, and the way they've done it, they control the ball superbly. They did get away to that fabulous lead of 14-0, but really they've played control stuff, and they've thoroughly deserved this victory today.
So they lead by 18 points to 10, and the kick to come from Walford. I don't think any of these St George supporters will worry too much whether he kicks it or not. But you're talking about Longhurst, wasn't he excited? He had a bit to say to the Broncos, to say, well, you can take it and see you later. There's the kick and it's there. 20 points to 10 in the closing stages of the match. And a big win here for St George. Terrible conditions. I suppose, David, you can't take anything away from St George, but I don't think it would affect the Broncos to any great extent, would it?
No, but I think Wayne Bennett still would have been looking for the 2 points, Bill.
Yeah.
They've got that cushion on the top of the ladder, you're right. They've got 18 premiership points. St George had to win it. They were on 10 premiership points coming to this match. But St George now on a bit of a roll. They beat Balmain last week, grand finalists last year, and now the front runners. So to their credit, so the St George side have played extremely well.
And a penalty coming up to St George on this occasion.
Once again, the referee saying that the marker there was not standing off the man playing the ball, even though the strike was won by Brisbane. The referee wasn't happy with the way it was affected. He felt that it was he was actually laying over the top of the man trying to play the ball, and the penalty results.
So they'll come up and take the tap, and it's Longhurst moving on to the mark. Singing outside to Hoogerworth. He is going to be wrapped up in the tackle. Longhurst to dummy half. Swinging it back inside. St George will be quite content to just hang on to the ball now, and why not?
The importance, Bill, of those early points can't be underestimated either. It forced Brisbane to play a style of game they probably wouldn't want to have, but also have to be highly critical. I think their kicking game has not been up to scratch today. They played too much of the game inside their own territory, applying a lot of pressure on themselves, especially in the second half. At 14-10, had they trapped St George inside their own quarter, I think this side would have found it very difficult to get out. But having said all that, credit to the Saints. They've come up winners against the top side in the comp.
Yes, taking it out to the tune of 20 points to 10.
3 tries to 2. 2 tries to Johnson, 1 to Walford. Walford had a tremendous game with the boot, kicking 4 goals. The Broncos' tries came to Lewis and Greg Dowling. 1 goal from Terry Madison to bring up his 200th point for the year. But in the end of the day, it was St George who reigned supreme. Their 3rd win on the trot. They have won by 20 points to 10.